yeah, sure.
I will. Capital. A lot of things that I learned from things Rebbe says, like parenthetically. Parenthetically, like it's not like the point. Rebbe just says it like middle of a sentence and half ended. In 1978, Rebbe was speaking about spreading the message of Purim. The Jews who do not, there are Jews who do not know about the Simcha of Purim ad liyada. Purim is supposed to be beyond the limitations. And the Jews who don't know about the Simcha of Purim at all, Achmon al-Itzlan, may Hashem preserve us. Usually the words Achmon al-Itzlan are words, you use like Chas Hashem, someone got in a car accident, Achmon al-Itzlan, may Hashem preserve us. The Rebbe says those who don't know about the Simcha of Purim at all, they don't know about Liyada, and there are those Jews who don't know about Purim at all, Achmon, may God preserve us. So the Simcha of Purim and Liyada of Purim is something that every Jew needs to know about. And we need to know the body of Purim, the halachas of Purim, in order to connect with the Simcha of Purim. This Shabbos is Parsha Zachar. Parsha Zachar is a mitzvah in Torah to remember the deeds of Amalek. It's a biblical commandment to remember the deeds of Amalek. And although we mention every day in davening, Doctor, Vienja, Hilchos Purim, Bishon. Although we mention every day in davening, but the biblical commandment is to hear it once a year from the Torah. With the minyan, that's how the sages established that we should fulfill this mitzvah. And although there is some discussion about whether women are obligated to do this mitzvah or not, but the custom is that women do come to shul, so don't come to shul all year, and they come to shul to hear Parsha Zachar. If for whatever reason the person not able to go to shul, they should read the Parsha Zachar from a chumash. Yeah. Okay. If you missed it on Purim, so then you should miss it on Parsha Zachar. So you should hear Parsha Zachar as it's read on Purim. There are two different sections of the Torah that we're reading. One Parsha Zachar, one on Purim, and in each of them we read the words "Remember Amalek," "Zecher Amalek," "Zecher Amalek." And there's an argument which one is the more. Which one is the correct version? If we read both Zechar and Zecher, and both on the Shabbos before Purim and on Purim itself, but in these two parshas, the prevalent opinion, I think, in this parsha is that Zecher with the Tzere is the more important one, and on Purim, it's the opposite. The more prevalent opinion is Zecher. Therefore, we read Zecher first, then Zecher. If someone, for whatever reason, is not able to hear the Megillah on Purim, they know for sure they can't hear the Megillah, they're going to go on operation, Chas Hashem or something, so then they should hear the Megillah before Purim, without a bracha. Let's go to Tainus Esther. Tainus Esther, it's a lighter fast, it's one of the lightest fasts, and therefore if someone is pregnant, nursing, giving birth, or sick, they're exempt from fasting. The custom is that before Mincha, on Tainus Esther, on Wednesday, we give Machzah shekel. The custom is to give 3 half coins, the currency of the place you're in. So if to give $1.50 Machzah shekel, and since it's preferable to give of silver, therefore you put $1.50 down, you buy the shul's coins, and you pick them up, you put them down, and that's how you do Machzah shekel. It's customary also to the mitzvah, or the custom, is from the ages of 20 and on, according to some opinions. Some opinions are at the age of our mitzvah. And the Rebbe said that we should give our children money so that they should be happy to use their own money for Machzah shekel. They should be happy to use their own money for tzedakah. If a parent should give their children money, then how good and how sweet it would be if kids would use their own money to give Machzah shekel, the boys. The Rabbeim would give Machzah shekel on behalf of all members of their family, including their wives. Doesn't say that this is or this isn't our custom, but it's only $1.50, so I don't know. It says the Rebbeim do. The Rebbeim would give on behalf of their wives as well. Once you start giving Machzah shekel, at any age, you have to continue. And so until your children are doing the Machzah shekel themselves, you have to give on their behalf. Some people even give on behalf of a fetus, on behalf of a woman who's pregnant. They also give Machzah shekel on behalf of the fetus as well. where is Machzor Shekel supposed to go to? So I don't know why, but people say that Machzor Shekel is supposed to go to the poor. There's such an opinion, but I know there's a sikha never said in a talk how since the half coins were given towards the funds of the Beis Hamikdash to buy the sacrifices, or to the word Truma is mentioned 3 times in the mitzvah of Machzor Shekel, and therefore it refers to 3 different kinds of donations for the different items that were given to the Beis Hamikdash, or for the half coins which were used for the sockets, or the half coins which were used to pay for the korbanos. Therefore, you have 3 half coins. It says the word Truma 3 times. So all of those things are connected to the Beis Hamikdash, to the Mishkan, and therefore Rebbe said that the half coin should be given towards a shul. But of course, it's kosher to give it as well to aniyim, to poor people as well. But that's what the Rebbe mentioned. If you did not give it before mincha, you can give it on Purim as well. But again, if on Purim there's another mitzvah, matzalan savyenim, this is a custom to give this before mincha. If it's going to 2 different funds, then it should be. You're not Yetzer, you're not filling the mitzvah of Matan Savyenim, Machzor Shekel goes to the shul. Let's say this is it's something Mendel Putvas used to say, Matan Savyenim has a lot of special halachas which apply only to Matan Savyenim. For example, you're only allowed to use money which is not from Meiser money, not your regular Meiser money for Matan Savyenim, and therefore it's supposed to be beyond your Meiser, and therefore it doesn't say the same thing about Machzor Shekel, I don't think. So it's a different status. Merendel Futafas used to say there's things that I knew 20 times and I forgot 20 times. One of the things I knew 20 times, I forgot 20 times, and I'm going to forget again, Mitzvah Shem, Leich Yom Shem Tevis, is what's the din if someone forgets and they eat on the fast? Sometimes says they're forgetting to eat. What's the halacha? Forgetting you eat, what do? So you're supposed to finish the fast. Even if you forget you eat, you're supposed to finish the fast. A chas and kala, since again this is a very lighter fast, a chas and kala don't have to fast on Tainus Esther. They're in the middle of 7 days of their wedding. They don't have to fast on Tainus Esther. If you have a bris on Tainus Esther, although there are different opinions, the custom is that those who are the father and the sandik do fast on Tainus Esther. However, they should not. They don't. They do fast, and even the chassan, they do fast. That's a custom. And even those who aren't fasting, the chassan kala or someone who's sick, it still says that they should not eat like they regularly do. All other fasts, except for Yom Kippur, are associated with something negative. Tainus Esther is a unique fast. There are 2 opinions about what Tainus Esther is about. One opinion is that Tainus Esther is to commemorate the fast that Esther did 3 days nights before she visited Achashverosh. But according to that, it doesn't fit to the 13th of Adar. Why is it 13th of Adar? So everyone said that the fast of Esther is connected to the war the Jewish people had against their enemies. And since they were fighting against their enemies, those who are actually in combat couldn't fast, because you're in combat. How can you fast? You have to have strength to fight. So the only ones who really weren't part of the combat were the women. They're the ones who were able to fast. And even the women, they were also connected to the war as well, because they had to help the men. So the one who was for sure protected and didn't have to at all engage in battle was Esther. Therefore, it's called the fast. It's led and connected to Esther. So there is a discussion whether even after Mashiach will come, we will have to fast or not, because it's not about a calamity. It's they're fast. We're fasting, asking Hashem to take away the calamity. This fast is meant, as it says in Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, to remind us that God answers us in times of trouble. And so the point of the fast is to remind us that Hashem answers us. So why not fast even after Mashiach comes? If it's in order to remember how Hashem answers us when we're in trouble, so therefore there's such an opinion. I don't know what the conclusion is. I'm sure we'll find out this year. Mashiach will come today, and we'll find out if we have to put the fast or not. But it's not a negative fast. It's a fast associated to remind us that Eibush is with us, even if it's a time of trouble, he'll answer us. Okay. If there are at least 3 people in shul, you can read the Torah. Okay. In davening, actually, Yossi made a mistake. You should not use half the meiser for half the shekel either. Not use the meiser money for half the shekel either. Right? Change that.
Makes sense. anytime you're obligated with something,
you can't use my money for it.
it's not too bad.
Right. I just was thinking this is not such an obligation. I made a mistake. This is considered an obligation, therefore you shouldn't use my money for it.
You should try to use the best. You should use the half silver dollars.
Right.
Not the half dollars, but half silver dollars.
If you want to be machmer, you want to give the value of the silver dollars are worth about $8 a piece. So then you could, but the halacha is that you're able to just give $1.50. There are those who are machmer to give the value of silver dollars, but you could be machmer if you want to be machmer. If you
to use the half, to make sure to use, but some people come around with just regular half dollars.
Right, basically silver ones.
Mostly silver?
It's better to use the silver ones.
Because the shekel is originally silver.
Right. And some people give the value of the silver also, and they don't give $1.50. Some people give the value of silver.
You don't have the silver coin anymore. Regular.
Well, this is only for half coins. It's half coins. So if you forgot to say anenu, what do? God say anenu. Say anenu after Yul Ratzin, before the second Yul Ratzin, Shemona Esrei, after some Shalom, after Yul Ratzin, at the end, right before Yisrael Shalom, before the Yul Ratzin, if you begin to be Fanacha, you say anenu over there. It's appropriate not to wear a costume when you daven. You're davening, the Eibusher, it's appropriate not to wear a costume, although the minute in California is dafka to wear a costume when you're davening, but officially that's not the custom. So if you're able to not wear a costume when you're davening, it's better. You're not allowed to eat before you hear the Megillah. It's also appropriate after the Megillah is read and you come home, there should be candles lit in your home. It's supposed to have more than a regular dinner. It's Purim. Now, you don't have the mitzvah of Purim, and all the mitzvahs of the day of Purim, except for Megillah, aren't done till the next day. But it is appropriate to have a little bit more than you have to eat on the night of Purim as well. It's Yontif. And it's also customary to wear Shabbos clothing or to wear a Purim costume, everyone according to where they're up to. The ones did mention that children wear costumes, but adults wear costumes too, l'chera. Anyways, but if you're not wearing a costume, you should wear Shabbos clothing. Or some people do, they wear Shabbos clothing and they put a costume on top of the Shabbos clothing. Okay, on the morning of Purim, you're supposed to get up earlier than regularly, and because a lot of mitzvahs do that thing. Just like you're not supposed to eat before you hear the Megillah, also before you hear the Megillah in the morning, you're also not supposed to eat. Not a drink, but you should not eat before you hear the Megillah in the morning. As the halacha is like for the shofar. The shofar also, you don't eat before you hear the shofar. So to in the morning, you have a mitzvah Megillah, you don't eat before the mitzvah. What about tefillin? So
you can drink, though.
You could drink. When you're hearing the Megillah, it's better to wear your tefillin, not take off your tefillin until after Megillah reading, because it says in the Megillah that the Jewish people had light and joy, gladness and honor. And the Gemara explains, what does honor mean? Honor means tefillin. And therefore, it's appropriate to wear tefillin while you are reading the Megillah. When you say Shechiyanu, next day. Right. When Shechiyanu is said, you have to have in mind all the mitzvahs of the day. What are the mitzvahs of the day? The mitzvah is the Suda of Purim, the Simcha of Purim. The Shechiyanu is on the Tanas Avyenim. Shechiyanu on the Megillah. When you say Shechiyanu on the Megillah and say Amen to the Shechiyanu, you should have in mind that you're also saying Shechiyanu should also go on the mitzvahs of the day, Tanas Avyenim, the Shalach Manis, and the Megillah, and the Suda of Purim. I forgot to mention on Parsha Zachar, the Shabbos, you have to have in mind when you're listening to do the mitzvah of Zachar. The Baal Kera also should have in mind when he reads the Torah to be Yates everyone. It does say that when you say the brachas, some people say even the brachas when it has the aliyah should have in mind everyone, but apparently that's not the halacha. But there are those who say that even when it says the brachas, has to have in mind to be Yates to people with the mitzvah of remembering Amalek. But the halacha is that just the one who reads the Torah has to have people in mind, and the one who are listening to the Torah have to have in mind that they're listening to the Torah to feel the mitzvah of remembering Amalek. If you want to do business on Purim, so it says anyone who does business on Purim doesn't see any bracha from the business. There's no sign of blessing in the business he does on Purim. However, that's for the day of Purim. The night of Purim, it says that it's not negative, it's not positive. It doesn't say you won't see a bracha, but it doesn't say you will see a bracha. So if you're machmer, if you're strict, not to business night of Purim, so there is additional bracha. But if you're not supposed to go to work on Purim. But business, buying and selling, that's considered simcha, that's considered joyful, and that's permissible. Also, all other things that you do, which are malacha, which is work, on Purim, it is permissible as well, or malachas you do for a mitzvah, that's also permissible. What about washing your clothing? So it seems that it's okay to wash your clothing if you need to, or take a haircut if you need to, because that's also considered something. Washing clothing is pressing a button, and taking a haircut, it's joyful. It means you simcha because you want to get a haircut.
It's also Thursday, the day before Shabbos. Shabbos means the day to wash clothes. Wash it.
Kind of says it. Okay. It's better to hear the Megillah in Shul than to hear Megillah anywhere else, because Berev Amhas Melech is supposed to, in the glory of the king, when there's a lot of people, and therefore should have to hear the Megillah in the Shul. Children should be encouraged to give their own money to Yenim and their own gifts to their friends, boys to boys, girls to girls, men to men, women to women. You should not be satisfied with fulfilling your obligation that your family gave it. Rather, every child should give their own shachmanis and their own tanas Yenim. If you are not sure, if you heard the Megillah, you're not sure, you maybe missed a word, not sure what to do. So if it's not a equally balanced doubt, if it's not you don't have a reason why you would say you did hear, and reason why you say you didn't hear, so then the chazak is the assumption is that you did hear. If you miss one word, there's an important halacha which I just learned now. Halacha I just learned now is people always say if you miss one word, you're not yetzer. And if you don't understand it, you are yetzer. There's a part that's missing from the conversation. Although if you miss one word, you're not yetzer. And if you don't understand that you are yetzer, it's possible to not miss one word and not to be yetzer, and still didn't do the mitzvah of the Megillah. That is, if you're listening to the Megillah and your mind is somewhere else, it says you don't do the mitzvah. You have to be actively listening to the words of Megillah. You may not understand them. You have to be actively listening. The difference between passively listening and actively listening is?
What about if the guy was reading? He's spitting.
So
you can't follow.
So yeah, I guess in that situation, if he's reading so fast you can't follow, at least if you actively listening to whatever he's saying. You can't follow along with your finger. You have to have in mind that you're trying to hear what he's saying. You may not be able to follow what all the words are that he's saying, but if your ears heard them, you have in mind you want to hear what he's saying. So you've done the mitzvah. You've heard. I mean, I have a friend of mine who could do the whole Megillah in 10 minutes. 7 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that. It's there is.
It's sort of like competition in there.
Yeah, I mean, it depends where you are. I remember I had to read the Megillah once in Beverly Hills High School in the morning, and I had to finish Megillah. I think in 15 minutes. I had to do it. I think whatever. Anyways, so if you have a doubt if the reader who read the Megillah made a mistake, so at nighttime you could be lenient, in the daytime you should be more strict. If you are sure you heard the right words, and someone else says, no, I'm sure you read the wrong words, you were sure you heard the right words, you don't have to hear the Megillah again. The guy who thinks he didn't hear the right words, he has to hear the Megillah again. Suffix. Except, but if you have a suffix, by nighttime you should be strict, by daytime you should be lenient. What if you missed a letter? You heard Hama, you didn't hear the So
add it yourself.
What?
Add it yourself.
You could. So just like the reader of the Megillah himself, he could. If the Megillah is missing words, it's still Kasher Megillah, and so he could read. He's not supposed to interrupt once he starts reading the Megillah. He's not supposed to interrupt, but he, if he's missing a word, he could read the word from a Chumash, but it's not a Megillah, and it still works. So too, you're following along with the Chumash. If you're following along with the Chumash, you shouldn't read the words out loud. If you have a Kasher Megillah in front of you, so then you could read the words out loud to yourself. You're doing mitzvah, but not hearing him, you're saying the words yourself. But if you're being gates by listening to him, so then you should not say the words along with him if you don't have a kosher Megillah. However, if you miss a word here and there, then you could catch up and say those words to yourself, and you shouldn't like read it out of order. Say, I missed Achashverosh HaMelech, and he's up to the word Kush. So Achashverosh HaMelech, okay, now I heard that. Now you stopped, you took a breath, and now I've heard the word Kush. You have to hear it in order. So you have to read all the way up to the word Kush and catch up to him, or go a little ahead of him, so you make sure you heard it, and that way.
What if you don't have the ability to do that?
Then you should hear it again later.
And you got to find someone that reads it slow enough to be able to.
Yeah, and my great-grandfather, Zal Moshe, used to hear the Megillah many, many times throughout Purim, again and again and again. Make sure you hear them in the mitzvah. Let's say you have funds dedicated for Purim. What do you use those funds for more? What's better to use those funds for more? For Matanas Avyenim, for gifts to the poor, or for Shachmanis? So just like the Rambam says, if you have two kinds of sacrifices, it's better to use the money for those sacrifices that will benefit other people. Rambam uses very, very powerful words. Rambam says there's no greater joy that Hashem has than raising the spirits of those people who are downtrodden, people who are sad, making them happy. So therefore, it's certainly correct as here as well that the majority of the funds should be used for giving money to the poor and not for Shachmanis give also. But there should be more money dedicated to Tanas Avyenim than money dedicated to Shalachmanis. It's best yourself to give out to meet someone who needs money personally. There are those who write that you have to have someone who is qualified as a very poor person to do this mitzvah, but the custom is that anyone who can't make it themselves to take care of their family qualifies as someone who's able to receive Matanas Avyenim. They say a joke in Brisk. They're very, very, very strict. The mitzvah is exactly correct. So there was a guy who was very poor. Everyone made sure not to give money the whole year, so that way they'll know, that he'll still be a needy person on Purim. Otherwise, to give money the whole year, he might go from the category of the very needy just to the needy, and then they won't do the mitzvah on Purim, so they made sure to be extra strict on his cheshbon. Not a good idea. But the point is that no, you don't have to look for someone who looks like he is the number one poor person. As long as someone needs assistance, who doesn't, they qualify as Tanas Avyenim. Let's say you owe money to somebody, and you want to give them Shalachmanis. Can you give them Shalachmanis? So the halacha is, it might be considered interest. So if you always gave them Shalachmanis before, you could, but don't give the Shalachmanis with the check. You have a monthly payment of $1,000 for your loan. Don't come to Shach, here's a Shachmanis, and here, by the way, here's a check. Don't do that. If you always give Shachmanis, give Shachmanis. And you also, Alter Rebbe says, don't have in mind that you're giving Shachmanis because of the loan. You give Shachmanis, it has nothing to do with the loan, fine, but don't associate with the loan at all. What if a person lost someone in their family, they're a mourner, so they still should give Shachmanis. They don't give candies, they give simple foods as Shachmanis. And you also don't give someone who's in mourning, you're not supposed to give them Shachmanis. You give the family Shachmanis. It's customary not to say thank you for Shachmanis. People don't say thank you. You say Good Yantiv, you say Happy Purim. I don't know why, but that's a custom. Don't say thank you for Shachmanis, you say Good Yantiv. Maybe because of mitzvah. Even a poor person is also obligated to give Shachmanis, to give foods. Again, two kinds of food you have to give. I don't know where this came from, but since I'm a child, people are making this mistake and saying you have to give two foods which have two different blessings. It's not true. You give two foods which have the same blessing as long as they're ready to eat foods. I think the Rebbe used the example of giving a piece of cake and soda. When they was talking to children what they should do, every child could so easy. The mitzvah was saying you give soda. Doesn't have to be two different brachas. I'm saying it could be the same bracha. Yeah. As long as two different kinds of food, it's kosher. I don't think water should be used because water is really not considered important. It should be something which is important. It should have also an ounce. It should be something which has a significant amount. An ounce. An ounce in revius, yeah.
When you say two different kinds of fruit, then what does that mean? Two different kinds of fruit. I can give apple and orange.
Can you give an apple and orange? That's a good question. Because they're both fruits.
Good. So what's wrong with that? They got the same bracha, but what's wrong with it?
I don't know. Could be you're right. Could be apple and orange. I would think that maybe an apple and orange considered the same kind of food. I know, for example, laws of brachas, laws of blessings, the Alter Rebbe clearly says that all fruits are considered the same category. I don't know how Shachmanis works regarding fruit. That's a good question. But in general, two kinds of foods are two kinds of foods. Two different kinds of foods. But fruit specifically, I don't know. Fruit specifically, Alter Rebbe puts them together in the same category. So
it can be a kebab and two different kebabs. Chicken kebab and beef kebab.
Chicken and beef. They're both meats. Probably it's okay.
What's the category? That's the last. Which category is that? Is that halacha or just
No, there is halacha is two different kinds of food. What makes them different? You're asking a question. I eat two different kinds of fruit, two different kinds of meat. I would say 2 kinds of meat. I would guess it's okay, but let's double check that. Let's look into it.
Fruits are different.
Huh?
Fruits are different.
Fruits might be different because Alter says about fruit, all fruits are the same, but I don't think 2 different kinds of meat are a problem. But what do I know? Most of the meal of Purim has to be eaten by day. What does mean most of the meal of Purim? You're going to bring the entire night. You're going to bring until the next morning. You're not like Dr. Achman is going to work the next morning. You're going to celebrate Purim until we get there. And Dr. Achman's going to forget he's Dr. Achman. It's also going to celebrate Purim until he gets there. So what he's supposed to, but say he's supposed to have the majority of the meal. If they're supposed to have mincha early, then you have the meal of Purim. And the majority of the meal should be eaten before sundown. What does the majority of the meal mean? At least it means you should have bread, you should have meat, you should have wine before sundown. Wine is a discussion whether wine is good or l'chaim, but it seems like it's good to have specifically wine because a miracle of Purim happened with wine, and therefore you could have other drinks as well. But you should start off. It seems that having wine is a special thing as well in Purim.
And simple libas
In Tzchal Yain.
So it's not so good to mix the drinks. The types of
That's a medical thing, no? Okay.
drinks.
You should light candles by the Suda. You should also have in doctor, kreplach? Kreplach? You heard of kreplach? Kreplach, no kreplach. Kreplach means supposed to have meat in dough, meat covered by dough. There's a certain kind of dish called kreplach. So we have it on Purim, and we have the only other time of year we have it is on Yom Kippur. On Yom Kippur, on Purim, Erev before Yom Kippur, and I don't know if the story is true. I heard the Rebbe one year, for whatever reason, whoever it was, didn't make kreplach for the Rebbe. So he took a piece of challah and covered whatever chicken or a piece of meat, and then said, "This is ready-made kreplach." He has the dough, and it covers the meat. I heard it has to do with chesed and gvura. I heard that meat has to do with gvura, the judgment of Hashem, and bread has to do with the kindness of Hashem. You want the kindness to overwhelm the judgment. That's what I heard. I'm not sure. I don't know if that's true. Okay. Once you daven Ma'ariv, you cannot say any more Al Nisim and benching. If you do Ma'ariv and you didn't bench yet, you can't say Al Nisim. So it's best to say bench first, then do Ma'ariv. But you're afraid you don't want to end your meal. You want to continue Purim. You can continue Purim. And you continue Purim. The next night is Shushan Purim. It's still Purim. It's Purim and Shushan Purim. So you're not ending Purim by benching. Your meal continues, and you finish your meal, and then you daven Ma'ariv after your meal, and you what a second, how can you daven Ma'ariv though? You said l'chaim in your meal. So l'chaim, how can you daven Ma'ariv? You're not allowed to daven when you're not able to talk in front of a king. It even says that even if you could, the halacha has different categorizations of what drunk means. There is someone who is drunk. He's drunk a full revius of wine, but he could still speak in front of a king, meaning that although you could tell he's drunk, he will be able to say what he wants to say to the king without slurring and stuttering and able to say the words. So it says that person should not daven. The person who was drunk should not daven Shemona Esrei. But the custom is that you do daven. Why can you daven? For 2 reasons. Number 1 is because we don't have kavanah so much anyways. So therefore, when we're drunk, we're not drunk. So the Mem shows it's not so much different. Number 2, we're using a siddur. Using a siddur, and we don't have so much kavanah anyways. So it's okay to daven when you're able to still speak in front of a king. However, if you're so drunk you cannot speak in front of a king, then it says that you should not daven, and you should wait until the wine has departed from you a little bit, and they're able to daven. The Rebbe always said the story of the Ramah, how he would go around the night of Purim to remind people daven Ma'ariv. You're not supposed to drink and at the expense of any mitzvah. It says also that a person is always liable for anything that they do. So if you make a mistake and you hurt someone, chas v'shalom, I was drunk. It doesn't work that way. You have to make sure not to drink in a way that's going to make you, if a person's alcoholic or someone who was a chassid, the Rebbe said that you're not supposed to have more than 4 l'chaims. So you've got to be careful about Purim, make sure that you're drinking in a way that is kosher and not in a way that's going to hurt yourself and make you miss mitzvahs. What if you fell asleep and you woke up next morning, you didn't daven Ma'ariv? What do? Can you daven Ma'ariv? So you let it daven Ma'ariv until not just Aleis HaShachar, not just till dawn, but till sunrise. Well, you daven before, according to some opinions. For some opinions, daven till sunrise, but if you're davening after dawn, before sunrise, you can't say the blessing of Ashkenazi. The blessing of Ashkenazi is let us lie down in peace. Not lying down, it's not time to get up already. So you can't say that blessing, but you could daven the, huh?
Tashlumim,
You don't have tashumas.
no, I mean, if you don't daven,
The best time to daven is before midnight. You didn't miss davening before midnight, daven at least before dawn.
like, for God, that's all, You can
Oh,
daven the night.
very good. So usually we would say if you intentionally missed a davening, you can't make it up. But this is not considered intentional. You started drinking and you got involved in the l'chaim and you thought you'd daven later and you pushed it off and you ended up mismaitiv. It wasn't your intent. Therefore, it's not considered you intentionally mismaitiv, and therefore you could daven a second shachar the next morning if you mismaitiv to make up for the maitiv that you missed.
This is
Also,
only
the
for
mitzvah.
Huh? Yes.
You're also the mitzvah, you do the mitzvah of not remembering.
You're that's what I'm saying. This mitzvah does not make you exempt from other mitzvahs. From other mitzvahs.
Why? What's the difference between mitzvahs and other mitzvahs?
It's not different. This mitzvah does not make you exempt from other mitzvahs. You have to make sure that you're doing this mitzvah in a way that won't interfere with other mitzvahs. You don't become all of a sudden exempt from all mitzvahs. I'm saying l'chaim, I'm no longer Jewish, I'm doing a different thing now. You're still obligated on all mitzvahs. Okay, what about Shema and benching? Shema and benching, even if you are very drunk, you still should say Shema, you still should say benching, because Shema is a biblical commandment, and benching is more lenient, and benching could also be a biblical commandment, and therefore, if you're not sure if you are sober enough to daven, and therefore you're not, and therefore you're waiting to get sober, don't wait to bench and don't wait to say Shema. Shema and benching is certainly how to say benching ben Torah, but then there's the issue of being drunk during benching. So that issue is a rabbinical issue. So yeah, so therefore it's better to bench even if you're not sure if you're able to bench. I don't know if I mentioned this before. When you send shalach manos, it's better to send shalach manos through a messenger, because it says in Torah shalach manos. So two kinds of food to one person, and to gifts to the poor is supposed to be to two different poor people. Matanas lev yoyim in the plural. As a good that a woman should also give, it's better she should be strict to give herself, not just to rely on her husband giving to two different people who need help. What if this always happens every year? Someone doesn't hear the Megillah and they're trying to find the Balkair, and the Balkair shows up in their house 5 minutes before sundown. And even this very fast Balkair knows it takes him 17 minutes to read the Megillah. He's not going to finish before Shkia. What should he do? So he should read the Megillah without a bracha. Read the Megillah and finish, because it's not so clear what the status is. They read it without a bracha. What do you say, Magdil or Migdal? Magdil or Migdal in benching on Purim. So there are different opinions, but the Rebbe said Magdil on Hanukkah. So it seems like the correct custom is to say Magdil, not Migdal. Any questions? All right. Zaka Baruch.